been frozen out.
Facing an extinction level event.
We don't fight this fight right now, you're not going to have black-owned media. Well, today, 20 brands pledged to commit at least 2% of their ad dollars to black-owned media companies through GroupM's Media Inclusion Initiative. This pledge invites GroupM clients to invest at least 2% of their total annual media budgets to black-owned media companies. Invitations and planning are active now, with activation projected in the next 12 months. Brands participating in the initiative include AARP, Adidas, Citizens, Danone, DoorDash, Ferrara, General Mills, L'Oreal USA, Mars, MGA Entertainment, Mizkan America, Nestlé, Number 7 Beauty Company, Pernod, Ricard, Pharmavite, Ring, Target, Tyson's Food, Uber, WW International. I think that's Weight Watchers International, Inc. So they made that announcement. We also, of course, Target announced that by 2022, they'll be spending 5% of their media budget with black-owned media company. Now, these are the percentages that people announce, but here's the question that still has to be raised. What are they spending right now? And what percentage means dollars? See, folks, the reason we have been very specific, and when I say we, this all started when a host of us, black-owned media folks, Byron Allen, Todd Brown, Butch Graves, Don Jackson, Ice Cube, also Junior Bridgman, who now owns Ebony, and myself, we all signed a letter blasting General Motors for their numbers. Now, they responded by saying our numbers were wrong. We said, okay, what's your spend? See, the reason we are being specific, and look, this is a nice announcement, but first of all, I'm not going to jump up and down till I actually see contracts signed. See, that's part of the issue we've had. Announcements, but no money. The other question is, how are you going to measure it? See, when somebody says we're going to spend 2%, okay, 2% of what? $1 billion? $2 billion? $3 billion? And then how are you going to actually report it? Who's going to be checking? See, all these things matter. And the reason I'm asking the question right now is, okay, how much are you going to spend? Because here's the deal. You're talking about 2%. Okay, I get it. But the question then is, the money we're talking about, of what? And I know somebody might be saying, well, you know, it's like that's really not that big of a deal. No, actually it is. Because, see, if we are not aware of what folks are spending, then we're not fully aware of, again, how we're being impacted financially. And the reason being we're going to keep harping on this here is because we really, just like in politics, you got to deal with the money. And it is interesting, as Reverend Barber was talking, he was talking about, you know, being respectful, things along those lines. And I just keep trying to tell people, if you show me an example where black folks have not had to yell, kick, and scream to get some stuff, then fine. I would love to see it. And the bottom line is this here. I've had people hit me up and they say, you know, you guys calling these people out, you know what, you put them on blast, you know, those things shouldn't be done. Guess what? I don't think General Motors would have made that announcement. GroupM would have made this announcement. Dentsu would have made that announcement. None of these companies would all of a sudden be going, oh yeah, are we going to commit to spending with black-owned? Target announcing we're going to do 5% with black-owned. Because let's be real clear. We know the language, Teresa, they've been using. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, diversity, people of color, BIPOC. No, we were very specific, Ben. We said money going to black-owned media, period.
Absolutely. Roland, it really mirrors what Joe Manchin is doing in a way, because they love to show up for the press conference. They love to show up and get credit. They love the publicity. But when it comes time to write us a check or cash in on what we've done and to pay us for what we've done, they don't really want to show up, and without tremendous pressure. We have to pressure them to do the right thing. And eventually what we need to have are people who are empowered that don't require pressure to do the right thing. But until such time, we got to keep giving them hell, because we're not going to be able to spread our narratives, the narrative of what we've gone through as Black people, if we keep having to go to white people's media institutions to accomplish it. And they want to benefit off of Black lives. They need to put money into Black communities and Black media.
And the thing here, Teresa, is very simple. If you don't get the contracts, you can't grow. I think part of the problem, and I keep saying this here, if you could talk about Lippin Group, Sunshine and Sachs, we could start naming Fleischman Hilliard. You can't name a major Black-owned PR firm that's coast to coast. I can name a whole bunch of small firms.
Yeah, like TML Communications. So one of them, yeah, no, I had to do a little plug.
But that's precisely my point. The point is this here: if you're not in a position to compete for larger contracts, then you can achieve scale. Then you can't open offices in Atlanta, Charlotte, Chicago, New York, L.A. I mean, it's, Dallas. Whatever. I mean, and that's the deal. It's scale. This is absolute economic apartheid that has been practiced, and what we are arguing is, nah, we ain't about to have that. That was a divestment campaign in South Africa, and our whole deal is, y'all are going to spend some money with Black-owned media or else.
Part of it is, I think, some of the contracts that happen from the corporate standpoint that yes, they will give money to small minority businesses, but I think when corporations are starting to look at how much of a percentage they have to give to some of these minority businesses in order to grow, that's when the issue really starts to take a hold. And thus we start to look at our local governments and our state government when we start look for contracting, because there's a lot of restrictions even on that. And I went through this whole process, wrote a whole op-ed on it about the value of the importance of being certified in city government in order to attain contract. But there's some caveats and, some contracts that I looked at in Texas and Atlanta that you have to also have the insurances to cover some of those larger expenses in order for you to achieve the contract. So there is a lot of stipulations, even if you are rewarded the contract, that is a hardship. But two, even when we start talking about the dollars and the cents that can come down the pike, if you don't have the designation of minority or certified, even though you have a driver's license and a business license that shows that you're Black. But if you don't have those two items, you are still exiled out of the equation to retrieve some of those dollars and cents.
Which is weird, because the white folks don't have to prove they white.
Absolutely. I've said this before. It's like the show your papers type of initiative.
And Teresa, I'm not doing it. No, seriously. I've had people say, Roland, you certified? Yeah. My ass was born. Yeah. My Black ass is certified Black. Yeah. I'm not about to sit here and go through a certification process when, I'm sorry, the white folks ain't got the, it's amazing, they can get the contracts, but they ain't certified. I'm like, no, I'm Black.
Also, part of this certification that I really have a difficulty in, because it's like they will also want to show the capacity of how much your business made, right? So the revenue is a strong point. So if you've made $50,000 that year, they'll be like, oh, well, it's a weird process. It's like almost like I feel like I was buying a house. That's how much information
look. I've been dealing with this with some of these, and I'm going to tell you some of the runaround that we go through, and we're already dealing with this here, Mustafa, where the client would say, let's do a deal. But then we got to go to the ad agency. All of a sudden, they start asking, okay, well, what are your metrics? What's this, what's that? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And see, I keep telling the clients, it's y'all money. tell their ass we doing the deal. Like, I'm not about to repitch myself to the agency to prove to them what I should do. If you and I agree that we gonna do a deal and you cool with the amount of money I'm asking for, tell they ass process the paperwork. But see, again, these are what they do to us. They make us, for everybody who don't understand, they'll make us, and Teresa, you know this, they'll make us do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 proposals all back and forth. You're investing all of this time, and then they come back with a no. And you're supposed to be all excited. Well, at least you were being considered. Damn that! I ain't get the check.
I have a personal story. I have to say it's a big broadcasting company. They reached out. They said they had $1.5 million.
Big broadcasting company based in Philadelphia?
No. Here you go. They start with it rhymes with. I'm just
messing with. Go ahead.
They have 3 letters. I had to help.
Well, hell, they all got 3 letters. Go ahead.
So, anyways, they had $1.5 million, and I said, okay, so essentially, what is this call about? They was like, look, we want you to help on the minority spend. And I said, okay, so what is that budget out of that? You'd be surprised it was less than 10% of that. And you should have seen the hops, skips, and jumps. And so what I did, evaluating that this wasn't my first time going through this rodeo, I said, we're not the right firm for you, but I wish you well in hopes that you can find a bigger budget to a majority minority city that encompasses more minority population. And then absolutely, I got an email from their boss that says, we have more opportunities and X, Y, and Z. But I thought it was interesting. Like, I just didn't take it, because some people just would take it.
They were playing you small.
I don't want it.
Right.
I'm good.
They were playing you small. And that's the thing, Mustafa, we deal with. And what I keep trying to explain to black people, we've got to learn the difference between aid and investment. We've got to stop accepting corporate donations to black organizations and say, no, spend money with black-owned companies.
Period.
I don't care about your donation to the NAACP. That's a donation. What are the contracts going to black-owned companies, catering companies, limousine companies, PR companies? That's where the money is.
Without a doubt. I mean, the whole contracting process, I mean, I can speak to the federal government, state and county governments, is sort of designed to support the haves and to exclude many of the have-nots. In many instances, when you go back and look at the percentages that actually make it to businesses of color, and in particular, African-American businesses, the numbers don't lie, and we know what they look like. It is an opportunity to make sure that we're actually creating black wealth with the beginning of the conversation that we had, because we can build the infrastructure and we can also build the capacity that folks need to be able to compete for larger pots of money. And if folks are not willing to do that, then they're not truly interested in supporting our communities, which of course then helps as we're trying to increase black wealth inside of our respective communities. So, we've got this dynamic that's currently going on. And the other part of it, Roland, I just want to touch on extremely quickly, is something you raised earlier. As people are talking about this 2% spend and going up to 5% spend, it's incredibly important, as you said, for us to make sure that folks understand what the baseline is and then what the criteria is. And all the programs that I ran over the years, the criteria will determine how and where dollars actually flow. And then it also helps us to build real accountability into the process, which is really where the rubber hits the road. If you don't have that accountability, where both during and after and in the analysis, so that you can then come back around and strengthen that program. So as people are going through this 2% up to 5%, there has to be in that process analyses each and every year to figure out where folks may be falling short or where they're doing a good job, and how do you expand that? And then how do you actually also show folks how their investments are yielding these additional positive results, which will play out in a number of different ways. So we got to have the accountability and the analyses in this process if we're truly going to make sure that folks are able to build the infrastructure and capacity to continue to get the right messaging out for these respective folks who want to invest in this space.
Folks, then we were talking about in this segment, we were talking about, of course, these ad agencies. But today, the White House talked about this whole issue of supply chain disruptions, and one of the things that they're focusing on. And again, so that was today's announcement. But one of the things that we still are talking about again, the issue that we're raising is, where do Black-owned businesses go along with that? And so, and the reason I want our audience to understand why we're doing this segment, we keep harping on it, because I want all of you to understand, and the panel's been talking about this, you got to follow the money. If you really want to start understanding what, in terms of how do you begin to build and reconstruct this thing and how Black people have been impacted, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, if Black businesses aren't getting dollars, no way in hell individuals getting jack. See, and I think people keep having this thing backwards for some reason, Ben. They somehow go, well, yeah, I don't want the business class to get this. No, but here's the deal. Who do you think are going to employ folks? I mean, here's the deal. I've got 14 employees. 11 of them are Black. Okay? So who do you think? Now, when we started, we had 7. We've doubled since we started. That's growth. We're in the top 5% of Black-owned businesses in the country in size, because the average Black-owned business only has 1 employee. And so I don't even call those businesses. I don't. It's just a sole proprietorship. And so we can't, like when I was down in Tulsa, there was a lot of people, they were talking about, Black Wall Street and starting their own business. And my whole deal is, okay, I keep telling people, starting your own business is a great concept. Building a sustainable business with capacity is a whole different animal.
Yeah, church said amen. No, for real, Roland, I agree. And I think the system is fully aware that if it gives us an inch, we will take a mile. If you give us enough capital, we will show you what we can do with it, because we have more of a collective mindset in terms of how we do our business and how we do the things that we need to do for our community. Look at what we accomplished. You mentioned Black Wall Street, but honestly, when we play by their rules, we succeed, and then they interrupt us and bomb us. And they interrupt us and redline us. And then they jump in there and they do whatever they can. And now it's at the point where they're interrupting our progress because of the gaslighting that's going on all around us, not only in terms of what's happening in Washington, D.C., but in terms of these real dollars. Without the means to get this done, they know they can keep Black businesses, keep coming to beg for money, keep coming to beg for meetings, and hope that we'll be satisfied with just meeting with them or getting the press release versus actual tangible results.
Yeah, I mean, again, the bottom line here is I need our folks focused on the money. You can't have these conversations about, man, we need to own our politics. Well, how are you going to give it? How are you going to give donations if you don't have the additional money? We keep talking about, support our own. Okay, but where's your excess money? You can't be able to create scholarships without excess money. You can't sit here and say, hey, I want to throw a political fundraiser without excess money. You can't fund civil rights organizations having marches and protests if you don't have excess money. Folks, I keep going back to the money. And I'm going after the existing money. What we're saying to these corporations, these advertisers, you're getting our money. We want a return on investment. We are shopping at Target. We want to see more money by Target spent on Black-owned media. We buy General Mills cereal. more of that money coming back here. This is the thing that, again, I keep laying out to people that has to happen, and folk just have to understand why we can't sit here and play games with this issue. If we don't have the hardcore discussion, and not just discussion, Mustafa, fight for the money, then guess what? We're going to be back here 10, 20 years from now, and I'm sorry, I'm 52. I'll be 53 in November. And the reality is this, none of us are going to live forever. And so I don't want to hear anybody saying, and look, this is where I disagree with Ben Chavis of the NNPA when he gave a quote to one of the newspapers saying, you know, these things take time. No, Ben, we ain't got time. We're trying to change this for forever. We're trying to lock in now where 2% is the bottom, 5% is the bottom. Our whole deal is in 5 years, that number should be 10%.
Right, or even higher possibly, but
right.
You got to start somewhere. So I totally get that. You know, we got to stop letting people pimp us. You know, a pimp will take your money, tell you pretty, and keep it pushing. And that's exactly the paradigm that we've been allowing people to place us in. We've got an opportunity now to get very focused, to build wealth, and to change these dynamics. But that means that you have to get engaged in the process. So you saw a list of folks, you know, who are now a part, these 20 brands, that are a part of this. Folks should be reaching out to them and letting them know what their expectations are. You know, all you got to do is, you know, go on the internet and send them a message and support the individuals who are pushing to try and help to give you a better opportunity and a bigger piece of the pie, if you will. But if you remain silent, then people will think that you're okay and you're suffering. So let's just change the dynamic. You know, we're educated people and we know what we deserve. You know, we continue to build these brands into billion-dollar industries. It's time for the restitution. It's time for the reinvestment or investment inside of our entities, inside of our communities.
I want to give a shout out to Ebony McMorris. She's now the White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. She actually was in the briefing room today. And folks, again, I need everybody to understand why it matters. April Ryan leaves American Urban Radio Networks and goes to Byron Allen's The Griot. They replace her with Ebony McMorris. Okay, so now you got two black-owned media folks sitting in the White House briefing room. This right here is why we have to be able to get the resources, because when we put our people in the briefing room, these are the questions that get asked. They're not going to get asked by white journalists. Listen.
Go ahead, sorry. Will the administration work on unbundling large contracts to ensure that black-owned companies can compete for them?
No. So we are very focused on trying to make sure that our Build Back Better agenda, sorry, it's hard to see. Is it okay if I stand here? Sure. To be able to look? Yeah, I relate. No, we are really focused on making sure that as we talk about diversifying supplier bases here in these reports, that we are not just talking about small businesses, but we're talking about disadvantaged businesses as well and minority-owned businesses. And so you've seen in our American Jobs Plan that we put proposals in there related to small business and strengthening small business. And we know that an important piece of that is leveraging federal procurement and the power of federal procurement to support those businesses. So,
Christian's been very eager in the back. Go ahead, Christian. Last actual one.
That's why, and I've made the point, when we are able to build, able to grow, then we're able to employ more people, and it would be great for us to be able to have black folks, black-owned media people who are in the halls of Congress, who are at DOJ, who are in every single federal agency, asking those questions, demanding those answers. That right there, Teresa, again, why when we are able to build capacity, hire and employ, we can do more of that.
Absolutely. And shout outs to Ebony. She has been a true friend to me over the past year. And so I congratulate her in that new position. But she's absolutely right. I know even her, like she had a business herself. So it's like having people that understand the economic hardship it is to maintain a business and let alone grow a business. August of this year, will be 6 years. And I can't tell you the amount of conversations I've had in 2020 and some early 2021 with friends who have businesses but had to close because of the pandemic. And how much consulting that we've all been giving each other, finding programs, finding resources, and some of it, I think the deadlines or the portals and the links just didn't work. And so now we're talking about how we rebuild and bring businesses back to the Black businesses back to the forefront of these corporations who essentially allow a small a piece of the pie to go to us, but it's not a lot to grow. But I feel like we're doing the bulk of the work. So I think the mindset has to change. I think Brother Mustafa was absolutely right that what we can do in this space, small businesses and those who are willing, to go to these organizations and corporations that we're spending our hard-earned dollars and ask them to do more. Put a campaign together and say, we need you to do more by 2022. Let's just speak it into existence. But if we don't utilize our voice, we can boycott for a day, but boycott for a week. But I think if we keep the pressure on, we keep the pressure high, and we put our pen to paper and we send it up, I think we could probably get some results.
Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.